Now, I want to also talk about, what they might call preventive care. And I'm talking about like your routine annual physical exam and lab tests, for example. Now, I would describe this practice as a sales model, but not something that's beneficial for your health. Now, first of all, even since was in medical school in the early 2000s, I knew at that time, I believe it was even taught to us that the benefits of an annual physical had been extensively studied and shown to not be beneficial. So, why are we still doing these? And there are many reasons. In fact, a lot of times physicals are required for employment or for your children to go to summer camp or for college and things like this without any known benefit. So what they're really doing is they're trying to establish, risk factors for disease, which not something that are causative, but they're associated with the development of some problem in the future. And they've been, in many cases, redefined as diseases themselves, right? Like prediabetes, obesity, even high blood pressure really is technically not a disease. It's just a response of your body to not getting enough blood to your organs, and something is causing it. But this is, one of the things that they want to follow. And of course, cancer screenings. Now, a lot of this is done by screening tests, but many of these screening tests are either not validated at all or not properly validated. I did give a live stream not too long ago about diagnostic tests, where I described a number of foundational problems with developing this. So, for example, with respect to levels of chemicals or types of cells that are in your body, how would we actually determine what is a normal amount? And then how do they do this for these actual tests? And they use statistical models, which unfortunately don't really capture all of the situations. And one consequence of that is that a so called abnormal result can actually be normal. It's just because we've applied a statistical model, we now see it as abnormal. And many doctors begin treatment for situations like this where it's really a normal result. And one of the major ways you can avoid this is by not just ordering blanket tests. Because, for example, just based on a statistical analysis, if we ordered a certain number of tests, like maybe five, maybe it's eight, maybe it's 10, I haven't done the actual calculation, but statistically, just by chance, one of those tests is going to have a value that would be considered abnormal, even though it's actually normal. And this is because that individual doesn't actually have any signs of disease, right? They're not experiencing any symptoms, any limitations in their functioning related to health, but they're just getting a bunch of tests that are all interpreted through statistical models. So by chance, one of these or perhaps more is going to be abnormal. And then the doctor is going to take action based on that abnormality, even though it is a false representation of your health. And this is how people end up getting into the sort of snowball effect or landslide effect of interventions. This is well described in the birthing realm, but it really occurs in the screening realm as well. So, first you have an abnormal result, and then the doctor says, well, we're going to need to have you come back to recheck it, right? Then maybe it's slightly abnormal again, or it's not, and then they want to check it another time. And eventually there's enough abnormalities, they say, okay, well, now we want you to take this drug. Then you have side effects of that drug that cause another abnormality, right? And then you're well on your way to being on 8 to 10 pharmaceuticals, having surgical procedures, chemotherapy, all kinds of sequelae down the road. Now, this is also well described with psychiatric patients. And we can look at the book, for example, Anatomy of an Epidemic, to learn more about how that plays out in this context. And this is an amazing sales model because essentially you have a subscription model where there's ongoing revenue. You keep going for more and more visits over time. So there's more and more revenue coming in. And over time, the amount of interventions grows so that the revenue also grows, right? I mean, you have one copayment for a monthly drug, it's $10 a month. You have eight, now it's $80. a month coming in, right? To that's just what the pharmacy takes in, minus what they get from the insurance companies for the reimbursement. So you can see how this is a very successful business model, and part of the reason why it is the biggest fraction of our gross domestic product is healthcare expenditures. So realize that when I, work with clients and do consultations and help get at what is the root cause of their health problems, I never think about saying, oh, you should go get a blood test or you should go get this test or that test, except for very, very unique circumstances. So some tests can sometimes be useful. Like it could be sometimes be useful to get a chest x-ray if you think you might have a pneumothorax, or there's evidence that there might be cancer there and you just want to see, is it there or is it not there, to confirm it for some reason. So there may be, times when a test could be useful, but it's very, very rare, and certainly not for general screening purposes in someone who is healthy overall. Now, I think that a lot of this is heading towards full automation, and that there are going to be less and less healthcare professionals involved in healthcare, because what I was discussing about these computerized clinical practice guidelines, which, currently work kind of like this. You see a patient, you put in your little note, right, which says what the problem is, what questions they answered positively to, and what your physical exam findings are, vital signs, etc. And then, messages pop up. Do you want to order this test? Do you want to order this drug? Kind of just guiding you what to do. That's going to be, fully automated, and you're going to be put in front of a computer with AI software, and it's going to interview you. Maybe there'll be a technician to perform parts of the physical exam, and there'll probably be robots, right? We already have, for example, like blood pressure machines and pulse monitors, et cetera. We have robotic surgery that could be done remotely. So I think this will be, automated at some point too. And then only for the most complex clinical situations will you actually, engage with a human doctor. And I don't think it's going to take very long to get this. It's mostly about getting people to accept it. But I believe the technology is really probably already available.